Good afternoon, everyone. Let me kind of go over announcements and this week's things before we move on to, I guess, project proposals first, and then maybe one article presentation that we have today. So this is the last quiz that kind of went away. Let me kind of go through it. And here the question is, when there is not enough space to show all graphical objects, reducing the amount of space. So we reduce the amount of space for some graphical objects is an example of. Filtering is not reducing, it's eliminating stuff. So it's definitely not that. Brushing is when we have two graphical objects that represent the same data point, like a car and its photo, price and photo. Uh, so it's not brushing. Suppression sounds like something that could be because we suppress the amount of space. And then focusing could also be. So it's either suppression or focusing. But in this case, it's more suppression. Focusing does not, it can happen even when we have enough space. So kind of if there were anything. But one of these two would be the right thing. So emphasize some parts of the data, displaying non-important part, that would be focusing. So in a way, suppression is more graphical level, graphical object, and this is more data level, if you know. They are related, I guess. I know there's probably some overlap there. So it's def representation is everything, how we represent the data. Filtering, again, removes stuff. And it's, I guess, there's some overview involved, but it's the focusing part. So we're talking about mosaic display, and in that representation, we need to cut one of the dimensions. So we have something like a rectangular area, and we can just split it in rows and columns that are aligned. We need to break the alignment either by row or by column. But let's see what this, I kind of have to read through it. Uses area of each rectangle to show the size of each subcategory. So that was the one where they had hair color and eye color. And that's true. So the first part is true. The second uses color to show how far the subcategory size from a distribution where variables be completely uncorrelated. So that, I think that's the right one. It doesn't show correlation between variable. It doesn't show, the color doesn't show subcategory, so it's not that one. The area, again, the area is the size of each subcategory, so it's not the third one. And then this one, the difference is like the first, but uses color to show how far the mean. It has nothing to do with the mean necessarily. It has more to do with independence. So eye color is not independent of hair color, just the way genetics work. But you know, there's other data where things are not independent. So I think that's the answer for that. What feature would allow the user to get an idea how to extend a search to find more objects? So let's say I'm searching for a certain car and I can't find anything. And is it my price that is too high, or is it the color that I'm looking that is, or the price too low, the color too, so I don't know how to extend it. So for that, the book calls it sensitivity information. So it kind of tells us where we, you know, if the color is too unique, or if we change our color, we get a lot of results, or is the price that is too low, and all we have to do is change the price to be able to see more results. Comet chart, that has a population, and that population is broken down multiple subcategories. So just like mosaic display, there's a whole and parts of a whole. The examples there were different, for example, different categories of people with only high school, people with a bachelor degree, master's, and PhD, and so forth. And it has a time. There's only one thing that we're looking at, which is employment, really. So there's not two variables per se. So I think it's these three. So brushing causes a change in representation. kind of the book calls representation the encoding. We go from data and we encode, we kind of figure out what graphical object we're going to use. We're going to use circles, squares, this color, that weight, that width, that height, and so forth, radius. So brushing changes that. Again, brushing, if I mouse over a picture of a car, I want to see its price being displayed. So it's going to change that price. It's going to make it, in the example on the slide, it's going to make it a magenta. So it changes the representation. Presentation is more like scrolling and scrolling, panning, and so forth. So this is also, this question, again, I tried to formulate it for mosaic display. So we're showing two dimensions that are statistically independent, or actually the question asks, it's appropriate for displaying two variables that are statistically independent, but they don't work if the dimensions are highly correlated. So again, can mosaic display, what we need to do is break one. We cannot have both the columns and the rows aligned. One of them needs to be broken. So the alignment won't be there. So what is appropriate for statistically independent? So I think that's the answer here. Two-dimension area that breaks down the space into rectangles. Not aligned. No, they need to be aligned. If they're not aligned, then we're going to mosaic display, and that not doesn't apply. So not that one. And I think that's what it is. So mosaic display, that is not mosaic display, basically. If we only have to do statistically independent, we will go with this one. We align it both horizontally and vertically, but it won't work for two variables. A bar chart, I'm not sure how to do a bar chart for two variables. And the bar chart, if it works for independent or correlated, it will work for both either way. And a scatter plot, again, I don't know how to do a scatter plot for that problem also. There may be a way, but it's not easy. So a scatter plot just puts two and x variables together and kind of look for correlations. Comet chart shows information about 2 points in time, so in the past and now. Again, show employment change in the past versus right now. And if we have to look at 40 billion entries and we don't have enough pixels to represent, so we're going to have to aggregate the data. Even if we go to pixel level or something, we have to aggregate. We have to have one circle that represents maybe a billion entries average, and then we're going to have 40 circles and we're done. We can display it even lower resolution. So the answer here would be aggregation. And it looks like I got all of them correctly. So I didn't lie to you. Okay, so that was the quiz, kind of started with it in this mode. And now for this week, because of the winter freezing and so forth, so homework 2 feedback is going to be Wednesday. That's the only thing that happens on Wednesday. And there's article presentations as well, so I listed it there just so people don't get confused. But there definitely it's going to be 2 articles presentation this Wednesday, March 5th. So that's kind of from last week. That's left. I talked up Wednesday. If you need to look through the recordings from Wednesday 5 days ago, and I talked a lot about homework discussion to review and feedback. So I'm not going to talk anymore right now. But that's something that kind of is trailing from last week. And let's see. So this week, March 3rd, we're kind of staying on lecture 4. starting with slide 23. So if I have time, I'll kind of start from there and cover more, you know, cover more than what's recorded here. Maybe a little bit of overlap there. But even if I don't, you have all these videos already recorded. And so we're in lecture 4, set of slides, which is this one here. Probably don't need a portal this time. You could use it. I think Power BI works in there pretty well. I think you can also install stuff if you don't want to install it on your machine. Quiz is already covered. Homework. I did post homework 3, and I want to talk about it because it's due in 1 week. So let me kind of go over it. Again, if you want to complete the assignment, this is the question 1 that you need to click on. I know somebody had trouble last time. This is the question 1. Obviously not this one. It's right here. Clicking will take us to the point where we can submit. And I think most of you will probably want to upload a file because it's easier than to use this editor. So all other editors are probably better. But this assignment kind of requires you, it's a little bit more precise than the previous one in a way. So we want to look for correlation, and there's all this talk about tariffs, so I picked stuff that has to deal with kind of Canada. And the data set that we're using, it's from Fred, something, let's click on it. But it's from the Federal Reserve's economic data. So it's pretty reliable data. And they, if you ever want to talk to if somebody tells you something and you don't believe it, go and check it out on Fred if you can find it, because they keep all the data there. So all of these political discussions, sometimes people exaggerate or they don't look at the full picture. You can kind of get it here. So there's many of these data sets. And what I'm going to do, so one way to, oh, I didn't want to go this way. Let me, okay, well, click on it again. I want to pull it in a different tab. So right here, the data that we're looking at are going to be kind of a time series data. And we are looking at these 6 indicators. So easier way would be to just copy one of them in here. And it's basically export with Canada. So if you look at it, it starts from 1955. But what I asked, and I could have messed up, maybe not, but starting from December, because all these, or the earliest data set that ended in December, so all of them should cover December. And then go back 12, it goes month by month. So we go month to month, go back from December 2024. So right here, I can pick up, it's probably easier to keep it January 2014. So that should be about 10 years. Let's see if I got it right. So that's 10 years of data. How do I, well, you could use their visualization. Not sure if it's the best one, but it's usable. But also you can download the data. So I'll get it in Excel format. And I don't see anything because something is messed up with the Excel. Or I did something in here that, let me try CSV, maybe that works better. Okay, that seemed to work a little bit better. And we have observation date and then the index here. And there should be 120 of these. So apparently I didn't do it right. It should be at 120. Do they have multiple? It's 11. Okay, my bad. I've been told that that's 11. So 2015. Okay, 2015, January 1st, 2015, that should be, so that's, let me start again. And probably need to kill this. Try again, CSV. And now I should be 120 here. Yes, 121 because I have the header row at the beginning. Okay, so I got the dates right for this one. So download this one. What I would do, and there may be other ways, but the other thing we can do is go and take the other indicator, search for it, click on it, and again go to 2015. And download it. And now I have this one here. What I can do is just copy the whole thing and put it in one big file like here. Yeah, so this is import, that's export. So I can kind of go ahead and build everything up in a format like that. A lot of visualization tool will understand this format if you keep on going through all of those data points. And so forth. I'm not going to pick one. Another one here. That's kind of US's side. And the same thing should work here, 2015. And it's monthly. We can download. I'm just going to check if it should be the same amount, 121, that it is.
What's the scale on the numbers?
You can read it. For correlation, it really should not matter that much. But the numbers are indifferent. I think, let's see. So I would take this and copy it on the other one and so forth. I'm just going to wait a second. Here is millions of dollars. The other one was Canadian dollar, not millions, actual Canadian dollars, and so forth. So again, it should not matter for correlation, as long as they're consistent. Each column is consistent. Each data series is consistent. And so go back to the assignment. Just like we had the discussion before I started recording, yes, there's certificate. You can do an R-square measure that gives you -1 if it's perfectly, inversely correlated, 0 if there's no correlation, completely random, and then 1 if they're correlated. But that's just a number. If I look at that data, I have 120 data points. Maybe I can get a richer view with some visualization tools. Maybe they're correlated or part-time, or in certain conditions they're correlated and others are not. So it may be that visualization is going to give us a lot more information than just a single number that we can put in there for each of them. And the other thing is, I'm asking for pairs. So how many pairs with 6 of them correlated are going to be. There's a formula you can use combinatorics, but if I have 6 of them, if I go 6 by 6, I put each of them. So the first one we're going to be here and at A. The first indicator is going to be A. The second is going to be at B and at row 2. The third at C and row 3. So if I put all 6 there, I have this matrix of 36 points. That's not the final answer. Obviously, A and A are always going to be correlated. B and 2 are always going to be correlated because they're exactly the same time series. So there's perfect correlation. It's the same. So if we exclude now from the 36, if we exclude the diagonal, I forgot to put the F in here. So if I kind of go ahead and exclude the diagonal, then obviously I only have 30 left. And then if I look at how A and 2 is the same as A and B. So basically the top side of this triangle is really a flip triangle of the bottom. So I can remove one of them. So there's 15 combinations right now. 15 pairwise comparisons. Because again, B1 looks at the first indicator versus the second, and then A2 looks at the second indicator versus the first, which is just the flip side of the same thing. If there's correlation, or if there's a correlation between A2, it's going to show it in B1 as well. And that way, we can focus only on one of these triangles. And therefore, let me put it this way, you can search for the answer. There's a mathematical formula that will tell you that. Or I can do it visually that way, and it tells me that for 6 indicators, there's 15 pairwise possibilities only. Okay, so looking for this data series, these are given here. Think about, what would be the best way to display correlation. There are tools that display it better than others. There are visualization techniques that we looked at in the almost 4 lectures that we went through. And kind of think of which ones are the best, and then figure out how to search for a visualization tool that would do that, and kind of let you compare pairwise. I showed you how to do this, and I kind of got this started having, the date plus the 6 indicators and 120 rows plus the header row. So that's 121. That's probably the most common way that most tools would understand it. Statistics or visualization tools, it doesn't matter which ones. Find the best visualization or visualizations and turn them in. And everything else is almost like homework 1 this time. So it's going to be 4 points for the first top 2, 3 points for the next 2, 2 points, 1, and then 0. I added this one. Just make sure for this assignment, 3, not 2. At 2, I didn't have it in there, so disregard it if it's in there. Make sure you take the property field of the author that Word puts in there. Remove it, because it's too easy, and it's obvious. Sometimes the operating system displays it, so even if you don't want to search for it, you're going to see it. So only for homework 3. Don't do it for homework 2. And the other thing is, I also want between 10 and 30 words feedback, just like homework 1. So this kind of goes back to homework 1 criteria almost. And that's pretty much this new homework that's coming up Monday. So we were a week from it. And that's it. Homework 4 won't be due for another 2 weeks. I mean, 2 weeks after this. So hopefully, if things go right and we don't miss classes anymore, we won't have any more overlap. I didn't think it would be an overlap between 2 and 3, but it was because we missed one class, and I extended homework 2. So that's the homework coming up. Project. We have 2 teams today, and I will kind of see how much I can cover from those 2 teams. And the other, I think there's 3 more teams left. So next week, next Monday, is the deadline for the rest of the teams. So next Monday, we'll be done with the proposal phase. Okay, just keep that in mind. If you haven't submitted, if your teams A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I, it's coming up next week, next Monday before class. And then next Monday, I'll start talking about demonstration of visualization tools, because this is a different video that you need to make. So different than proposal and different than article presentations. And then article presentations, please kind of follow as much as you can. Make sure, I think I have 5 people who don't have an article selected, approved yet. Everybody else, the other 15 or so people, probably a little bit less because we have 2 undergraduate students, are good. So keep looking for those, and then I'll talk about recap summary when we're done with the visualization tools, more about those. So that's the phase we're in. So next Monday, we'll be done with the proposal finally, and then you keep working on the project. And the next thing for the project is going to be on April 21st. So it's going to be a while before we get back talking about the project. But hopefully you're going to keep working on it or making some progress on that. And that's pretty, I think I've done it last time. But this is where we are in terms of grades right now. So again, I posted, when did I do that? I didn't do it. I didn't have a chance to talk. So kind of quickly scroll through the maximum points undergraduate students could have at this point are 12.5 points. So not a lot of points out there yet. So there's another 87 or so % left. And then for graduate students is 8.6 if you have not done an article presentation and the proposal. So those add up. So in this case, notice that I have 0 for this user on articles, and those would be another 8 points to add. So once you've done your article, you can go up to 16 maximum. And on the project, should be somewhere in there. On the project, I also not updated, but if you've done your proposal, and I kind of covered it in class, you should have a 5 here. So graduate students are either at 8, 16, 13, if you only have the project, no article presentation, or if you have both article presentation and project done, great for it. You could be at 21 or so %. Okay, so yes. Lester, go ahead. If you're talking, we can hear you.
For the graduate students, we do 2 article presentations or just 1?
Just 1. I mean, you're done with your article presentation. So I don't think your team presented yet. So your maximum grade, because I know you have the article done and no project, it's about 16.6. That's the maximum you could have right now. Just keep that in mind. There's a number of different situations depending on whether you got a grade for article and for the project. But I think about half the people didn't get a grade for project yet. We only have 4 teams, A, B, C, and D, who got grades. So And very few people, we had what, 3 article presentations? So most of you don't have an article presented yet. So that's the variability in there. Periodically, I'll kind of go through it. On the homework, the other thing I want to point out, and I don't think I covered that, but my feedback for the homework and the grade that matters is this one on the homework, the one that's out of 100. And if I have feedback, I will put it in here. So most of you get this generic thing. Me, I put it that is my user. But most of you, if you only see the generic thing, that it means I'm okay with your reviews. I didn't deduct any points. I didn't have to do any more deductions on the points there. But if there's more, I think in here, if you see something in front of it, then it's my observation, something happens. For some of you, for example, talking about redundancy, I've seen somebody who got a 0, but in the discussion, it said, you deserve a 1 or a 2. So I can fix some of those. And then your raw score would be slightly different than the actual raw score. So that's why I am putting it out here, because sometimes I change it. However, the raw score that we're talking about is actually way at the bottom. If you click on the homework, and notice this is my actual raw score, the reviews that I got from you guys. I did put something in there, and it was the homework that was a few years back. So it had nothing to do with current homework. And some of you were very nice and gave me a 2, and you shouldn't have. It was a completely different data set. It had nothing to do with this table. Most of you figured it out. So, and they gave me a 1, but they said, hey, by the way, it's not the actual data. Massively incorrect data. And so I did get, a few points there. Should have gotten all 0s for the most part. But this is where you would find the feedback. And it's the raw data. Again, on this review, Blackboard doesn't give me much input. Come on, get out of here. And because it doesn't give me much input, I cannot change anything in here. That's the reason there's 2 of them. Let me go back to grade. That's the reason I have, this is the one that matters. This is the one that I curate. I can't do much to the one at the bottom. I take into account, I kind of check everybody's more or less. I generally don't intervene if it's something that's reasonable person could have given a 2 or could have given, but I don't think a reasonable person could have. I see, I got a 1 for something that was not this semester, but at least it was pretty well documented there that the data is missing. So please look for that and find it if that's the case. And then you will see them show up here as time goes. So your reviews in the raw format are here. The actual grade is this one here. And I did post an announcement when. Okay, so Thursday I didn't have time to talk about it, but nobody actually came back to me. But the way this works is 80% is I'm using the raw score for it. If I have to change that raw score, I will change it and I will let you know, kind of tell you I've done something to the raw score. But for most of you, it won't change much. It'll be raw score 80% of the grade coming from that, not directly though. And then the 20% is me, 100. It's only me looking at the way you reviewed or the way you've done TAFTI or something like that for homework too. So that's me intervening here. So I kind of reserve myself 20%. It's mostly just to do quality control, make sure we're more or less staying on track there. Now, on the 80% submission, the one that's based on the raw score, what I do with the raw score, I round it up. So for this user here, obviously, for this user, I always put the maximum so we know what the maximum grade is going to be. But if it were somebody else, this would have been rounded to 1. Okay, so I look at it as if it were 1. So I round up all these scores. There's noise in them. Now, if it just happens to be right on a whole number, there's nothing more. At some point, I have to not round. But for the most part, I mean, always round up to the next number. So it doesn't matter. This is 57, but even if it were 0.1, I would still round up to 1. So then I consider this 1 and go back to the announcement. Okay, so 4 gets the entire 80%, 3 is 70, 2 is going to be 60, and then a 1 is going to be 50%. So a person that does something like that still gets 60% plus the 20 possibly, so 50%. So you're still getting about a 70% even with an assignment that's not that great. So I'm not trying to penalize grade-wise. And also notice that if you have 1 out of 4, that doesn't mean you get your grade is 25%. It ends up being quite a lot more. A 1 out of 4, again, I just said it. If you've done your reviews correctly, it ends up being 70%. So not going down to all the way down to 0. So because I'm starting at 0 is really 40%. So I'm starting at 40 and moving up. Okay, so that's, and for this, if I did points for the way you've done the reviews, I put a note in here, just like I said, me. You will see a sentence or something describing and kind of how many points I deducted. Okay, so that's the homework. Like I said, on top of the rounding up, on top of considering the fact that 1 out of 4 is not 25%, I will drop for every 3 homework assignments. I put it in the syllabus that way, giving me a little bit of flexibility. But right now, I plan on 5 assignments this semester. If I put a 6th one out there, fine, it's going to be free because every 3 I drop the lowest grade. So if you, so right now it looks like one of the grades is going to be dropped for sure. With some, again, read through the syllabus, I make some exceptions there, especially for academic integrity. I'm not going to drop a 0 if it's cheating. So for that, I won't. But most other things, the lowest grade gets dropped. So one of these, you can, it may not be your fault. You may have kind of the same quality all over, but your review one time is done with a lot of other good assignments. One time is done with some bad assignments. So yours kind of pops up. So that's given that I round up, I kind of all of that. We should have relatively good averages at the end of the semester for that. So I know most people hate the review, but it's the way I tried to take the sting out of the grade, and I still want the review that way. Okay, so that's homework. And I think I'm done with my talking. So let's look at proposals. Team C and E and F are probably looking forward to comments and to kind of getting started. And one more thing I want to say about proposals. Because I'm asking you to do alternatives, you don't have to wait for me to necessarily give you feedback. You can still work something, and that would be part of your alternative. Just put it at the end of the semester. You say, hey, we actually did this, but we changed the proposal because And it doesn't have to be because I told you. You can change it because you decided to change it. So don't wait necessarily to kind of keep on going. If you know what you're doing, keep doing it. And if I tell you, because it counts as part of the grade. It's one of the, it's going to be alternatives. It can be alternative visualization, but a little bit of alternative data and maybe an alternative goal that you were trying to go to. So all of those would count. And keep track. Don't throw anything that you work on the project. Keep it documented so you can have it at the end of the semester, when it's really at the end of the semester when you turn it in. Turn in as a team everything you've done. So this way I kind of see that, yes, that's been enough work done. Now I'm done with the